This is With Interest, a business, finance and accounting news podcast brought to you by CPA Australia.
Welcome to With Interest. I'm Subramanian. Today we are talking about the role of ethics in the accounting profession. And joining us today is Gabriela Figueiredo Dias. Gabriela is the chair of the International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants, or IESBA, and co-CEO of the International Foundation for Ethics and Audit. In her role as IESBA Chair, Gabriela ensures that IESBA activities maintain a public interest focus while developing high-quality ethics and independence standards. Her past roles have included serving as the Executive Chair of the Portuguese Securities Commission, or the CMVM, as a board member of the International Organization of Securities Commissions, IOSCO, the European Securities and Markets Authority, ESMA, chairing of the ESMA Investment Management Standing Committee, and as member of ESMA's Management Board and Mediation Panel, and as a member of the Portuguese National Council of Financial Regulators. Gabriela has served as Vice Chair of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, Corporate Governance Committee. She was a member of IOSCO's Sustainability Task Force between 2020 and 2021 and an observer at the Monitoring Board of the IFRS Foundation. She's also the founding member of the Portuguese Corporate Governance Institute and a member of the European Corporate Governance Institute. And since February 2021, she has been the president of the General Council of the University of Coimbra in Portugal. Welcome to With Interest, Gabriela.
It's a pleasure to be here.
A few weeks ago, the IESBA issued its new strategy and work plan for the period 2024 through to 2027. Can you tell us a bit more about the areas of focus for the next 4 years that the IESBA has got planned and how that will shape the future of ethical conduct within the profession?
Well, thank you very much, Ram. I'm grateful for you to providing me the opportunity to tell a bit about the IESBA strategy and work plan for the next 4 years with interest. So this strategy and work plan has identified 2 strategic topics that we will address over the next 4 years. One is the firm culture and governance, and the other is the possible extension of the scope of our code to other professionals than accountants. These are the 2 topics that will keep us busy over the next 2 years. The reason why we identified and decided to move forward with exploring these 2 topics is that we have, on the one hand, been asked by the stakeholders that we do so, and on the other hand, because the observation of what's going around the accounting firms and the accountancy services in terms of the opportunities, the risks, the threats, some events, some changes in the environment makes us think that these are the 2 topics that we should address. Now, what do I think that may change if we do so? With the firm culture and governance topic, it is interesting that we all have been working in trying to fix some individual problems, look at some individual issues, some individual firms, etc., and trying to see if we can do something out of this very individual approach. But there is a perception that maybe in the firm culture and governance, there may be something which is sometimes not creating the right incentives for ethical behaviors in this context. So what the IESBA is planning to do is to possibly identify the sources of some fragility, some vulnerabilities, possibly identify additional positive incentives to ethical behaviors, and after that work, see if we, as an Ethics Standards Board, have something to do and should do something in that area. Doesn't mean that we will address all the problems, doesn't mean that the IESBA has a magic wand to solve any problems, but yes, as an ethics standard setter, we believe that we have the responsibility of looking to the broader situation and context within the firms and try to understand if ethics can be useful there and any ethical new approach to the firm's culture and governance can uphold ethical behaviors in that context.
So with firm culture and governance, I think the important point perhaps to note is accounting firms and their culture and governance. The role of IESBA here is to set the standards. Of course, those standards have to be followed properly and they have to be enforced and regulated as well. So there is a part to play by others within the accounting profession ecosystem to make sure that the standards are appropriately applied.
For sure, I completely agree with that. And let me tell you more. It's not only a matter of the standards that we set being complemented by the implementation and enforcement by others. This is an important part of the story, for sure. And there the profession plays an absolutely critical role. And the professional associations mostly and organizations have a critical role to play there to make sure that these standards not only exist, and just existing is not enough, but they are implemented, adopted, and enforced. But this is really this objective of upholding ethics in the accounting services is really a collective project. It's not something that the IESBA or the IESBA standards can address all alone. It's not something that CPA Australia or any other professional organization can address all alone. It's a collective project. It's something that has to be achieved in an integrated way where regulators, where companies and clients themselves, governments, corporate governance community, etc., plays a role here. So what we are doing is, on the one hand, trying to launch this discussion and this perception and awareness of the collective responsibility of us all in doing something to uphold ethical behaviors, but at the same time, trying to see if there is any product, any output that the IESBA as an ethics standard setter can provide beyond the existing code of ethics, which is already a robust, strong tool for the purpose, but see if there is anything that, in addition, that we can provide.
Thank you for adding some context to that very important project that you're going to be undertaking. Now, if I can touch on the other big project that you've just mentioned, which is on sustainability and the role that ethics plays in that space. As I understand it, IESBA is going to develop a new Part 5 of the Code of Ethics, which will address sustainability and how ethics plays a role in that. Can you tell us a bit about how the IESBA intends to safeguard the integrity of sustainability reporting and its assurance through these new ethical provisions?
Well, the new ethical provisions will hopefully support the sustainability reporting standards and the sustainability assurance standards developed by other standard setters by providing the baseline for the ones who will apply those standards to adopt the right behavior. And this, per se, is an important product, an important contribution to the integrity of the sustainability information. If I may, sustainability information is something that is being required by investors, by users, etc., to make sure that their decisions are based on integral information, complete information, reliable information. And this is only achievable if we make sure that the ones who are preparing these sustainability information reports and those who are involved in providing sustainability assurance adopt the right behavior in applying the other standards. There are already reporting standards, IFRS S1 and S2, the European ESRS. There will be assurance standards, performance standards, but ultimately, all these problems of greenwashing, greenhashing, etc., they start and they exist because in some moment of this sustainability reporting preparation or sustainability reporting assurance, someone made the wrong decision. Someone opted to take the wrong behavioral approach to the way they should provide information, assure information, etc. These standards are not another set of standards to say the same thing. It's really an ethical behavior for professionals and all the providers of these kind of services to understand how to navigate the ethical dilemmas, pressures, perplexities, etc., that they will face when developing sustainability reports or performing sustainability assurance. This is not new. There are ethical standards in place for financial reporting and for financial assurance. And everybody agrees, I think, or can agree, that without these ethical standards, without the ethical principles on integrity, confidentiality, objectivity, etc., and all this framework that IESBA already offers to deal with independence matters, conflicts of interest, pressure from the management or from the client, financial interests, lack of competence, etc., these standards are absolutely necessary for financial reporting and for financial assurance. And nobody disagrees with that. There is at least the same need for sustainability reporting and sustainability assurance. And when I say at least the same necessity, it's because this information has some specificities, some characteristics, which eventually makes it even more necessary to have a global, international set of standards which make very clear expected behaviors from those performing these activities and the acceptable behaviors of the same people.
If you're enjoying this podcast, you should check out our in-depth business and finance show, In the Black. Search for In the Black on your favourite podcast app today. And now, back to With Interest.
You made a very good point there about well-established practices of ethical conduct and ethical standards being applied in the context of financial reporting and assurance, because that's been established for decades. So people understand that quite well within the profession. You also touched on things like greenwashing and greenhushing, which are issues or challenges that we could face with sustainability reporting and sustainability assurance. Some of it, some may say, is to do with forward-looking information, because with sustainability reporting, there is a tendency for more information to be forward-looking, includes estimates that are future-based, etc. Financial reporting, arguably, people will say, is more backward-looking, more historical. So with that in mind, what do you see as the challenges that you would get from an ethical standpoint when addressing appropriate disclosure of forward-looking information supported by appropriate assurance of that information?
This was exactly one of the things that I had in mind when I said that, if anything, ethics is even more important in sustainability reporting and assurance than it is for financial reporting and assurance. Exactly because this information is a little bit different. And this is one of the reasons. More forward-looking, more based on estimations, and therefore requiring from the provider or the preparer more judgment. And this judgment needs to be guided by very strong ethical basis, principles, and standards. If there is space for more subjectivity, it's probably not the right word, but there is a wider space of intervention, decision, and judgment for the provider or the practitioner than it exists for financial information. And for that reason, it's absolutely critical to have this baseline, this piece of the structure, which is ethical and independent standards. But in addition, we have to think that this is new. The data that is used for sustainability information and sustainability assurance is still very immature. And this all just brings the more clear the need for the ones providing these services to be guided by very strong ethical behaviors.
So you've touched on two very important projects that IESBA is going to be undertaking in the next few years. Just to close off, do you have any closing remarks on the role IESBA plays in safeguarding the role of the accounting profession within the global markets and within individual jurisdictions as well, to protect and safeguard these individual economies and jurisdictions?
Well, we are an international standard setter, and with that in mind, I would say that whatever we do applies at the international level and will directly or indirectly help the individual jurisdictions, as you mentioned, in developing their frameworks and therefore supporting the practice of the profession of accountants and accounting services. Our role is really to make sure that we realize the changes, the needs, and the developments around us and respond quickly, in a timely manner, in an effective manner, by developing the necessary ethics standards when necessary to face all these situations. So over the next few years, and our strategy and work plan, I think, speaks about it, over the next few years, the IESBA will be trying as much as possible to broaden its impact by making sure that we do what is necessary, namely on firm culture and governance, to address the problems that we have been seeing around, but also that we take a broader perspective and that we possibly include or explore the possibility of including not only the professional accountants, but all other or part of the other services providers, according to our vision that in the future, what should guide, what should be the scope and the focus of the standard should be not that much the profession, but the service that is being provided.
Thank you for those very important insights into what really forms the bedrock of the accounting profession. And it's good to hear that you're focusing on not just the profession, but also the kinds of services that may need to be underpinned by good ethical behavior. So thank you for that. And thank you also for taking time out from a very busy schedule and spending time doing this podcast with us. Thank you once again, Gabriela.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
For more information about ethics, including links to additional resources, you can refer to the show notes for this episode. With Interest is a regular podcast. If you liked today's show, you can subscribe on your favorite podcast app by searching for CPA Australia's With Interest. I'm Ram Subramanian. Until next time, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to With Interest, a CPA Australia podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, help others discover With Interest by leaving us a review and sharing this episode with colleagues, clients, or anyone else interested in the latest finance, business, and accounting news. To find out more about our other podcasts and CPA Australia, check the show notes for this episode. And we hope you can join us again for another episode of With Interest.